Fear Zone, channel your channel of terror. Hi, good evening to all, and now we go to the account today that is Mr. Cleverson, and this happened to him in the city of Marichal Candido, which is in the state of Parana, and at that time it was in the year 2003. Mr. Cleverson was just a young man yet, and today I will say something has already happened to me. One morning I saw a strange creature doing something very strange in my place. And it all starts like this. Time I was a teenager. I lived with my parents in a rural area of my city, but I led a normal life, and sometimes helped my father in the delivery service he did in his truck, and also I studied at school in the evening. But what happened a while is that almost every day began to spend the walker near my house, and this guy always carried a bag on his back, and so I realized that when he showed up, this guy always walked towards a place where it was a wasteland, and this stranger disappeared in that place, and there were several mango trees. However, it occurred once was that my friends called me to pick up mangoes in that land where the trees of the mango fruit were, but I did not go and stayed home even, but as soon as it was almost 2 hours, these my colleagues came home, and they called me to give me some mangoes that they took. But the fact is these colleagues had a strange purse. They said they found that bag hidden on top of a mango tree that they climbed. Well, these my friends used the bag to bring more sleeves, but also inside it had some clothes, and strangely some butcher bones, and a bag of salt that was inside a jar. At that moment I remembered that wanderer who sometimes passed by the house, and I already thought that bag was his, so I warned these colleagues of mine to leave the bag with me, because I knew who owns it. So I ended up taking this bag, and I already left it on the trunks on top of a tree that had in my backyard, and when this walker passed by, I would give it to him. But after all that, I went to school and came back very late home. It's spending time. I went to sleep, so when it happened around 3 o'clock in the morning, I started hearing my dogs barking in the backyard. They were pretty nervous about something. Well, my dogs were big and brave. I doubted that any animal or anyone would have the courage to enter my property. I got up from the bed and looked out the window, but what happened is that those and the dogs were in the backyard of my house, around the tree where I had hidden the walker's purse, and these animals of mine barked very angrily at something that would be up there hidden, but as there were many foliage that tree, and I was a little far away, I couldn't see what was there in their trunks. And then I came out of my room and took a stick and went to my backyard, and I got a good distance, me and my animals. We looked over there. Suddenly I heard some branches swinging, is a noise of something falling from the tree, and at that time I saw that there was the bag of the walker that I had left in the tree that fell to the ground. But it did not take long to hear another noise of branches breaking, and suddenly a black figure falls from above the tree, and it was huge, and it seemed to be a kind of dangerous animal. But at that time this beast that seemed to be a kind of strange dog too, he got up fast from the ground and stood on 4 legs. So this beast took the bag with his mouth, and it started to run kind of limping, and maybe he would be injured because of the fall he took on the tree, and yet my 2 dogs went after that beast. I took advantage. I was following this creature from a distance, because it even crossed my mind that it could be some wolf by the way he ran. But what happened is that this animal came near the house fence and tried to pass through there, but the bag was stuck in the barbed wire, and this animal could not get through there at all with that bag in his mouth. But only that while this creature could not pass through the wire of the fence, the dogs began to fight with this beast, and I went to him to give a few beatings on that creature. But when I got close to that animal, I noticed that my dogs began to catch this strange beast. I soon scared and hid behind the tree and began to see what this creature was. And that wasn't any kind of animal I'd ever seen, because he was a very strange animal. At that time my legs stopped from so afraid to see the appearance of this being, because I saw that the eyes of that animal were lit like lights, and this was a very terrifying thing. The fact is that after the dogs take a beating of this creature, they keep barking away from this beast, and they're right behind the tree and afraid of this animal see me. The bag was lying on the ground. At that moment this creature began to cough, and it seemed to go wrong and unbalanced. Strangers, is that out of nowhere this animal gave up taking the bag, and quickly he went under the barbed wire fence. But then something happened. As the creature was near the fence, that beast did something impossible, and I was frightened by it. for he knelt down as a person sent his arms inside the fence and tried to pull the bag with his hand's claw, but he did not reach the bag, and this my dogs get there together, is to start to leer for that beast again. And as this animal was outside the fence of the property, I came out from behind the tree to return to my house, but at that time this creature saw me, and that in the fright got up and stood like a man balancing on two legs, and this animal did not take his eye off me, and looked at me with a face of anger, and at the time it came into my head that this fare was a werewolf, I took advantage that the werewolf was outside the fence of my residence and ran to my house and locked the door, but at last I kept looking at the fence of my yard, and that werewolf had already disappeared, for right at that moment it was already 4 o'clock in the morning, and yet I stayed up until dawn the day afraid of this werewolf come back and try to attack me again, but as soon as dawn the day, I saw the bag that werewolf tried to carry there in my backyard, and so I threw it not wasteland that it close to home. Then I went back to doing my day-to-day obligations at home. But in the late afternoon I was in my backyard normally, and that's when I saw that walker again going through a trail of the vacant lot on the side of the house. I just watched him, but this suspect didn't see me, and my surprise the wanderer came close to the bag and he stood looking at this backpack, this strange guy, and looked from the sides. Then he saw me and began to disguise. Then he turned back with a scared face and disappeared through the woods. I do not know what gave him, but after that day I never saw this guy in my life again, and the bag could only be the werewolf for sure, because there was clothes and pieces of meat with bones, and the salt inside the backpack, and the werewolf came after this backpack and found it in my land hidden in the tree, and at the time that this creature fought with my dogs, he coughed because he was misusing werewolf, and that was our luck that beast ran away. And you, what you thought of this story? Did this wanderer have something with the werewolf, or he really turned that bug, and by the smell found his bag on top of my tree? At least for me, everything turns on. Good people, thanks for watching the video, and if you liked the report, subscribe to the channel and leave your like.